Now, this is an extract from a disturbing report this week from the Bloomberg News Service. With debt surging and the coronavirus pandemic threatening the deepest economic contraction in almost 90 years, business leaders are warning that President Ramaphosa's government can no longer procrastinate. With the situation deteriorating rapidly, they say, South Africa faces a choice between loosening the grip of vested interests to embrace radical and likely painful reform or risk a sovereign debt crisis and more permanent scars. The report goes on to quote Martin Kingston, Deputy President of Business Unity South Africa, saying the ramifications of not taking the necessary action in the near future, in his words, are catastrophic. That's the lead-in to part 3 of my interview today with Nick Binedell, founder of the Gordon Institute of Business Science, as we look at the state that we're in. Professor Binedell, good afternoon to you. Over the past 2 sessions, we've looked at how close to the precipice we are this week. Where's the starting point, then, to fix it, or are we too late?
No, I don't think we're too late, but we're certainly in extra time. The patient is in the ICU, and our economy needs the ventilator and oxygen very, very quickly. Business has put forward substantial plans in broad terms by sector, and that's a constructive effort. But there's something missing in the chemistry of urgency that we as citizens have to light up. We have to realize, as I said yesterday, we give a sacred mandate to the state, which is to take care of us with its resources, policies, and most importantly, the ethics and the execution. And we are coming short, and we've got a state that's really struggling to get things done. So I think like the 80s in a way, I'm not saying we are back in the 80s, but like the 80s in a way, it's up to all of us to rethink what we're doing and ask to how we can contribute. What's in front of us, what's around us, who we can lift, who we can assist, but also to be citizens who are active in the broader fabric of institutions, whether it's our churches, whether it's our community organizations, whether it's our political parties, to be more active, because we do face a crisis, and it's with us right now.
You talk about this chemistry of urgency. There are so many competing interests right now, Professor Binedell. There's so much anger. How do you find that common ground in order to facilitate the fix?
You calculate very carefully about what's really in your interests. You stop talking about them and you talk about us, because we all need each other. Part of the chemistry that's missing is the pragmatic realization that South Africans really need each other. We need all South Africans to realize that if we don't have a viable economy, we can't create jobs. If we don't have a state that's efficient and ethical, we can't manage the broader infrastructure we need. And if we don't have a society that's active in its democratic practices, the formula of magic, the chemistry of magic, can't happen. Barbara Tushman said, folly is when you miscalculate your own interests, knowing better. We've got the facts. We have so many facts about this country. We know what's in our common interest. We have to realize we actually need each other. And that's what's missing. If you look at Zimbabwe, that's why Zimbabwe failed, is the center did not hold. The center, after liberation, absented the politics to elites. And finally, as a massive decline occurred, the elites then contracted with the totally excluded. And so the media, the courts, as I said yesterday, the Constitution, our democratic rights, our human rights, we have to put front and center. And we all have to take this on. We have to not say them, we have to say us. And we put many of these people into key offices. And as I said before, we must have the courage to hold them accountable.
Just a final question as we wrap up this series. What green shoots, then, would signal some sort of progress? What would you be looking for?
I suppose the frustrating thing about this country, it's a bit like when suddenly we win the World Cup in Japan, and we go nuts and we celebrate it because we have the raw material to win. And other times we somehow just don't grab the raw material or the moment. And we're in a moment of crisis. And normally what should happen in a functioning society is a moment of crisis should energize us as leaders, as citizens, as employees, as workers, to come together. And we tend in moments of crisis to find what our differences are. And it's in all of our interests to get through this period and get this car out of the ditch. Now, I said last night to a group of faith leaders, the economy's in the ditch. You've got to pull it out of the ditch. And we have to put all hands on into this business. You can't become cynical. You can't absent yourself. You can't get into denial. What you've got to do is constructively deal with the reality. And all of us from the ground up can do this. And I think the last thought I want to share, Jeremy, is to say we must, in a democracy, hold our leaders to full account and to have more transparency and more accountability. And I mentioned in the first session about PPE, it's just one of the many examples. We want to know in a transparent way what the state is doing and why it isn't doing more. The same as we should ask of ourselves, what are we not doing and why are we not doing more as individuals in this incredible country that's still got so much potential.
And that's where we are going to leave it. The founder of the Gordon Institute of Business Science and consultant and academic, Professor Binedell, thank you very much indeed.